We were pretty famous back in high school.
Trust us. Had a whole future ahead of us, but now we suck.
All that potential now is flowing in the aqueducts.
Through the sands of time, many did forget.
But now our time has come to resurrect. But a podcast?
Sad I know, but can you blame us?
We are desperate to be much more than high school famous. I did not. The closest thing was I tried to look up something that's how to never run out of things to say ever again.
Oh, you think we're there?
Because
you think we're at that point in the podcast?
I panic every time we have to start.
You panic?
It's like mini panic. Like, do we have? I mean, we don't have anything to.
We've talked.
I can never think of. What's it? Yeah, well, it's not that. It's just that I can never think of anything to look up to do. So I'm always like,
yeah, I just feel like, I don't know, it's weird trying to.
And then I thought of something earlier, and I looked it up, and I'm like, we've done this before. I remember these things. I don't know why I thought we wouldn't have done this already. Just like the slang thing.
We're stealing our own material at this point.
Yeah, but it's just like the slang thing. I'm like, oh, let me look up such and such slang, and you're like, yeah, don't you remember we did this already?
Yeah, like 2 weeks prior. What was it today that you had looked up that you realized we've already done?
Nothing. It's not. It doesn't concern you.
It kind of does.
It was like old timey insults.
Oh yeah, we've done that.
Yeah, I know. I saw the list. I'm like, I'm recognizing a bunch of these. So clearly we've done this before, and I'm sure you brought it up. Like you brought it. So
I don't remember if it was something I brought or something you brought at that point.
So that's where we're at, people. Yep. That's where we're at.
We're stealing our own content.
Well, it's not that. I'm just incapable of
originality,
coming up with something to do on here, and I don't have the energy to put in a lot of work like I used to on some things, like making up games or quizzes, or
you've been
even busy, watching a movie.
You've been busy with editing video versions of the podcast.
Yeah, I know, but does that mean that that's it now? That's all. That's what I do now.
I mean,
that's what I do now.
No, I mean, well, to be fair, the one you're currently editing is taking a lot of your time.
Well, so okay, I'm going to be real here, everyone. These last 2 weekends, I easily could have finished it, but I just have not wanted to. I just don't want to.
Well, I just don't want to. If you're a little burnt out, you're a little burnt out, you know?
Right. Well, this is coming from the person who spends maybe minutes editing a show and then he's done. You know, versus hours.
Yeah, depending on the episode, yeah.
Right, but at most, what, 30 minutes?
At most? No, at most it could take a few hours, depending on what I'm all adding into it and stuff. But on average, probably about 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, talk to me about being burnt out.
I literally said, if you're burnt out, you're burnt out. I was like agreeing with the fact that I know takes a lot to do. I wasn't saying get on it, you lazy piece of shit.
No, I know. I know. I have a question for you.
Okay.
Did you happen to gaze upon this very visual, very vibrant version of the Northern Lights these last 2 nights?
No.
Apparently, on Friday night, due to some, solar activity or whatever, they're calling it like a once in a generation level of visibility.
Okay.
So, I did not know this was going on until people posted pictures of it the next day. Right. Like, oh, I just walked outside in the middle of the night and happened to see this. And I was like kind of bummed out that I didn't know this was going on or missed out completely, and didn't think it would happen, more than one night in a row. And it wasn't as crazy last night, which for everyone listening, this would be Saturday, the 11th was Saturday. Is that right? That evening, it was also pretty visual. I'm sure it's easier if you try to get yourself a little bit further away from any major city you might be in or near. But yeah, it was very visible last night as well. and I missed out on it again. And I was very mad at myself because I was just sitting at home by myself. I could have just opened the window or stepped outside for moments. I didn't even take my dog out at night before bed like I usually do.
Yeah.
I might have just accidentally seen it. I skipped a nightly routine that I do every night and didn't do that. But the part that bugs me the most is there are a lot of people that would kind of be expected to keep track of or be aware of this type of thing. And if you're someone who is, say, a well-known public figure who's known for being someone who likes to spread scientific knowledge out as much as they can, that this person might be someone who would put in a little bit of effort to clue you into something like this happening.
Right.
I took my son to see Neil deGrasse Tyson, who was at the State Theater here in Minneapolis on Friday night. He did not mention a word of it.
Interesting.
And I thought, of all people that I would have thought, well, if anyone's going to say anything about this giant event where the Northern Lights are going to be very visible, he'd say something about it. And he said not a whisper. I mean, he made it seem as though he might not have been aware. He made it seem like he was a little out of it because he had done a few dates in a row in different cities. And so he's like, so if I'm a little, whatever right now, I apologize. But I didn't even notice anything when we left the theater. I don't know when this was
I don't know idea.
Most visible or when you would have had a chance to really see it. But I think it was more like the middle of the night type of a thing,
Maybe.
1, 2 in the morning or something. But I thought, come on, if I was going to hear it from anywhere, I figured I would have heard it straight from the guy's mouth at the theater that night. And so I'm just a little bummed. But supposedly there's a good chance that because of another thing that happened, that it'll be visible tonight as well. And so I'm going to make sure I get out there. I'm just going to get in the car and just start driving north.
Until you hit the lights?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Seems like...
I mean, I don't think I'll have to drive... I don't think I'll have to drive, multiple hours away. I think I could just get myself out of the metro area and...
Yeah, probably. Yeah, I guess so. I didn't. I literally had no idea what was going on at all either. And I live right in the city, so I don't even know if I'd be able to see them if I wanted to.
Yeah, that's hard to say. For Friday night especially, everything has a scale, just like earthquakes and tornadoes have like their ratings system. And this type of system, the visibility level that was Friday night was, I guess, rarely occurs.
Off the charts.
It was still on the charts, but the top of the charts. Like they topped the charts, for the third week in a row. Here it is, Aurora Borealis with their latest hits. What?
Third day in a row.
Yeah, that's not impressive for a song, though. No. I was taking it to a song. So thanks. Yeah. Thanks for playing off of that nicely. It's great.
You're welcome.
So anyway, that's what I did Friday night. I went and saw Neil deGrasse Tyson speak, and it was sort of I guess what he does is I'm not sure if he does this a lot, but there's like a selection of topics that a particular city can kind of choose from.
Okay.
And so Minneapolis chose just kind of like what's going on these days in the universe.
What's happening in space?
Kinda. What's happening in space right now?
What's new in space?
He's like, just last night I was in Chicago. You could have gone to see him Thursday night in Chicago. But I guess he did a thing where he would play movie clips and then talk about how scientifically sound they were or how off they were or what they got wrong. I'm like, well, that sounds kind of like it was maybe a little more a fun experience than hey, look, here's all the space junk we have to deal with. And here's all the satellites that are floating around the Earth. And here's some images that the James Webb Space Telescope had captured in the last year. And
those would be interesting. I would assume.
I've seen them online. There's nothing I haven't seen already.
I forgot you were very into space.
Well, I listened to his podcast called Star Talk, which I'm not sure how the show operates, but it seems like every time an episode comes out, they always like, and this is a special edition. It's Cosmic Queries, where the people like Patreons will ask questions and we get to answer those questions. It seems like that's every episode, at least. So maybe there's like a paid version that is a different style of show, but so I've heard him talk about a lot of these things already. So that's that. But it was interesting to see sort of like the model that the computer model that showed, roughly how many satellites there are around the Earth, and then also the next one about how much sort of space debris there is.
Oh, it's a mess.
Oh yeah, and since this is all orbiting, it's all traveling at so many miles a second, just flying through the air. So even though something could be the size of a screw, if it crashes into something, it could do some major damage. So but he did one very odd topic that he brought up was something called Mexican alien mummies.
Okay.
There was some government. I'm not sure if it's an equivalent to like a Senate or a Congress, Mexican Congress maybe, where they claim to have these mummified alien bodies.
Okay.
Somewhere in the back. And
somewhere in the back. Somewhere in the back of Mexican Congress.
Yeah, so at first they were going
a weird saying of just like, oh man, it was a real Mexican Congress over there.
Oh gosh,
like what does it mean? I don't know, but it just sounds like it. Anyways, they have some mummies in the back. Okay. Yeah,
and they ended up. Someone had challenged them, of course, like, well, why are you keeping them out of? Why would you show us? And so they showed and have on display now these Mexican alien mummies. And not that it's because it's in Mexico. It's not the same that the not mummies are Mexican, like they're Mexicans that are from outer space. It's not saying that, but
that's a different thing.
That's a whole different thing. And so they sent him a email asking for him to give his opinion on whether he thinks these are real.
The Mexican and mummy alien mummies.
Yeah. So, I mean, but they just looked like fake, weird.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure.
The stereotypical short, big head, very slender body style, just laying in these sort of coffin type of setups. It's just nothing wild.
Yeah, it's not hard to make something that looks like it could be an alien.
Because it can look like anything.
Pretty much. Even if you go with the typical, stereotypical aliens, like you're saying they look like, especially if you're just like, oh, they're mummified. Like, yeah, you can just make them look like dried out anything. Like, it's really easy to make something look that way on a photograph.
Yeah.
Or in a video even. But like, if somebody actually examines them, they'll be like, oh, this is paper mache. It's not fucking skin.
Right.
But yeah, I'm sure it's bullshit.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, one thing that he said was, if aliens were ever visiting here, how come they only seem to ever be visiting government facilities?
Yeah.
Aside from your typical like fields, right? Yeah, that's what I was going to say next. But yeah, I don't know.
Other than like in the movie Independence Day, when they purposely went to major places and destroyed things. Yeah, aliens are always kind of visiting.
And that makes sense.
Weird.
That was their...
Yeah, but it's like, why, if aliens wanted to come here, why would they go to the least populated areas and abduct the like worst people the planet has to offer?
Well, they don't know.
Well, yeah, they don't know
that they're abducting the worst people, but they do know.
They do know if something
they know
will be populated.
Yeah, they're like, well, we don't want to get caught, so let's go to some remote area where there's not a lot of, our whatever Lifeform detection meters are not showing the's a lot of action.
You don't know much about aliens, do you?
I know very little about aliens.
Meter. Wow.
Yeah. What do you think they use?
I don't know. Probably like some sort of infrared.
What? For what?
To detect how much heat signatures are in a certain specific area. There's more people in areas that have higher heat signatures.
It's just a different name for what I said. Because where there is life forms, there are heat. Where there are life forms, there is heat. I reversed the things. So it's exactly what you just named it something else. That's all. Or what is used in the detection thing that I said is
the
infrared.
Lifeform detection meter. That's what you said.
Yeah, it uses infrared, of course. Yeah, we all.
Is that okay?
Yeah, I don't know why you questioned what I know about aliens when you just repeated essentially the same thing back to me as to what your idea is for what they might use.
Yeah, how convenient for you.
It's not convenient or inconvenient. This is to say that you know what they would use, and you're right.
No, I said I assume.
So it's convenient for me that I'm claiming that I'm saying the same thing, but you're not. There's nothing that shows you can be right or unright about it.
Are you good? You got that?
I'm great.
All right.
I'm great. I love it.
So I was about to say, speaking of the 90s, which we weren't, but alien stuff was pretty big in the 90s, right? No,
Oh yeah, I mean, Independence. You said Independence Day. Yeah. We had Mars Attacks. I think was late 90s, if not early 2000s. I forget when that came out. Late 90s maybe. For sure, right? You got Fire in the Sky.
Mm-hmm.
What year was Close Encounters? Was that late 80s?
70s. Probably, I think 70s.
Oh, it was. We know. Okay, we know E.T. was 82.
But yeah, Men in Black.
So
anyway,
Men in Black.
I don't know why
yeah.
So I already had a thing going on in my head about the 90s. So I don't know why I immediately assumed speaking of the 90s when we weren't. But randomly, I literally have no idea why this popped into my head yesterday. But I just randomly in my head, I was like, I haven't thought about this in a while, but Michael Flatley's Lord of the Dance just popped into my head randomly. Do you remember that shit?
Yes.
Okay. Irish dance guy. It was like a huge craze of the 90s.
Right.
So that just had me thinking of oh man, what were some other weird 90s fads and crazes that happened, and it just sent me on a weird thought train of things that are very, very 90s, but very much now extinct.
Okay.
So I pulled up a little Wikipedia list of 90s fads and trends that I thought might be fun to take us down memory lane.
We can do that, but
we could talk about Michael Flatley's Lord of the Dance for a while.
Well, I don't know enough about Michael Flatley's Lord of the Dance in order to fill a whole hour discussing Michael Flatley's Lord of the Dance. I mean, but before we jump into that, why don't we do a timeless trend?
What is that? A dad joke?
It is a dad joke. Timeless trend. It'll never go out of style. It's not a fad. Let's see. Gosh, this is so hard to choose. All right, I'll choose this one. It's probably the worst choice. Matt, what do you call a sad strawberry?
A sad strawberry?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Sean. What do you call a sad strawberry?
You call it a blueberry.
Well, no, you don't.
You call it a blue strawberry.
So what would you call a sad blueberry? What would you call a happy
blueberry?
A happy blueberry.
And a horny banana.
No.
Hey, I went to the doctor today.
No, you didn't.
This is another update of my life. I went to the doctor today, and he told me I was going deaf. The news was hard for me to hear.
This is the part of every episode I hate the most. That was the best you had to offer this week?
Yep. You want to hear the rest? All right. What do you call a loaf of sourdough at the zoo?
I don't know, Sean.
Bread in captivity. Our local auctioneer passed away. He was somewhere around 70, 75, 75, 80.
That one's slightly better than the rest so far.
Okay, the police raided a restaurant where a chef was making eggs Benedict. He was arrested for poaching. I don't believe in I before E except after C. It's been disproved by science. It hit me in the hat.
It looked like it hit you in the eye.
It hit me in the hat. Eyes are unharmed.
That was it? That's everything?
Knuckle crack. Yep. Well, I mean, no.
Might as well round it all out.
Sorry, I might have spiked on that one. Because I read the Sunday joke and not the Saturday on this paper. I saw a book titled How to Solve Half Your Problems. I bought 2. So here's the thing about that one. This is realistically like that thing where if you always travel the half of the distance you are away from a wall, you will never reach the wall.
Right.
If you buy 2 books that say how to solve half your problems, you read one and you solve half your problems, and then you read it again, you will solve half of your remaining problems, and so forth. So that's the one reason I decided initially not to read that joke. But you insisted on all 7.
I did not insist.
You still won't shut up about it. I already read them all, Matt. There's no more. I can't read any more dad jokes. I could go downstairs and get the calendar and we can look to the future. Should we just read dad jokes for an hour? No. What are Mario and Luigi's overalls made out of?
Denim.
Ah, you knew that one.
Mm-hmm.
So the 90s.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. By the way, everyone, day of recording is Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all you mothers out there. Matt, what have you been up to this weekend?
I don't think I did anything this weekend. Trying to think. Oh, I just did some apartment searching yesterday. Went and looked at a bunch of apartments. That's about it.
Cool. So, any potential prospects there?
Not really.
Well,
not really.
When would you need to move? Or like, when's your thing up at this place?
Never. I signed one lease 4 years ago, and we've just been sitting on that one, so I can leave whenever I want.
How do you find yourself in these like loosey-goosey situations where nothing really matters?
No idea. I have no idea how not every time, but like the first apartment, not my very first apartment, because the very first apartment it was with Travis and Mark, and that was a 13-month lease. But then the apartment I got after that, I signed one lease. I signed one 6-month lease, and I was in that apartment for 9 years.
So no one ever says, "Hey, new lease agreement, like new whatever."
No,
any like, "Hey, your rent is going to go up X amount because of a new year."
They raised our rent one time in that 9 years. Like I don't remember what it was, like $25 to $50 a month or some shit back in the day. and then right around when we were thinking about leaving that place, they were going to up our rent again, and we left before that happened. And then I had another place that was just a 12-month lease, and then the first place I moved into in Chicago, I believe was a year lease, but we left after 5 months because of the whole situation that happened with the people selling the house and all this shit. So we ended up moving. And then I think the place that we were after that, we were signing new leases every year just to have it as a record, but nothing ever changed. But yeah, this place we signed one lease, and we've been here for 4 years. They've not touched our rent or anything. So
I must be doing something wrong.
I have no idea.
Because maybe it's just because of social media, but everyone seems to have these great lives. And I'm just like, what? I don't know how people do it.
In no way does that make my life great. It just makes my living situation easier.
But that's all, that's part of it,
Yeah, but all the other bad shit outweighs it, so it's a good, healthy, unhappy life.
Okay.
Speaking of the 90s.
So the 90s.
The 90s. You know what it probably was because just before we recorded, you brought up you referenced a Simpsons thing again, and that's probably where I was like, the 90s, but that's not on the recording. But yeah, once again, Sean mentioned Simpsons in my presence.
But I thought this was something you had looked up before that.
That's why I said speaking of the 90s earlier.
Oh, yeah.
Anyways, so I have a list of some 90s fads and trends that you may or may not remember.
Can we turn this into like a Never Have I Ever game?
Sure.
I got nothing to drink.
I'm gonna say it, and then you're gonna tell me whether or not you remember it.
No. If there's
whether or not you participated in it.
Yeah, both of us.
Both of us? Okay.
Like you can say whether or not you did something that was specific to the 90s.
Some of these are just like, some of them are fads, obviously, like things that you maybe have purchased, but not necessarily like, they're not all like, Lord of the Dance. Like, were you into the Lord of the Dance? Or did you do this specific type of workout that was a big fad, So some of it's just
nope.
Some of this might be like, do you remember them, or had you ever purchased this, or
got it?
Whatever.
Got it.
It's not a super long list of stuff, and I also don't think it's even remotely all of the stuff.
The 90s, I'm sure, had way more to offer than whatever this list is showing.
Yeah. So it's alphabetical. We'll just we'll burn through this. Let's burn through this. Do you remember After Dark software?
What was it called?
After Dark?
No.
It was a series of computer screensaver software. It was originally introduced in 89 for the Macintosh, but 91 for Microsoft Windows. But basically, it was like the flying toaster screensaver.
Okay, I remember that.
Yeah. They had like different properties that they would use also as like Star Trek, The Simpsons, Looney Tunes, Marvel, Disney characters. So
this is just a software company that made screensavers?
Yep. Okay. And you could buy a CD-ROM full of screensavers to use in your
I remember the flying toaster.
Yes.
One. I've never known the name of the company that designed that or sold that. I guess it was sold.
Yeah, it was Berkeley Systems.
After Dark Software.
Yep.
All right. So, do you remember this?
I remember I remember that screensaver, but I wasn't aware.
Were you aware of the name After Dark Software?
No. Yeah, I remember the game After Dark. Or no, Perfect Dark. Never mind.
Perfect Dark. Yeah, you don't remember the game After Dark. There might be a game called After Dark.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's where you learn how to be a man.
That's a socially interactive game.
Right. Mm-hmm. Invite some friends over.
Yeah. After Dark.
Have some wine coolers.
Oh, those are big. It gets real now.
It gets real now.
All right, Sean, do you remember alternative rock?
That's still around, isn't it?
I believe it would be still around, but it really was a big thing.
It was birthed in the 90s?
It's saying that it evolved from independent music underground of the 70s, but it was obviously a very huge thing of the 90s.
So alternative, it just sort of got reduced down to being called alternative, right? Or is alternative rock separate? Rock. Or alt rock? So are alt rock and alternative different?
There's so many subgenres of everything. Like alternative
and that's
rock
such a vague.
now, like, yeah, if you look at like the family tree of music, alternative rock is the fucking trunk, and then it goes off into like a million of other categories that spawn off of it. So
you're saying alternative rock is like the biggest, most noticeable part of the music scene?
I would. Well, I'm not
the most
saying
substantial.
Like I'm not saying like all music derives from alternative rock, but I'm saying there's a lot of genres come off of alternative rock, and it's just easier to categorize all of that as, oh, it's alternative rock, or it falls under the alternative rock, spectrum of music. Moving on.
I do remember alternative rock.
As do I.
In case you were wondering.
Yeah. A little trying to think of a band.
Little Marcy's Playground.
Yeah, I was trying to think of a specific one that I can't think of. So
I believe it.
And I don't really care for. Sean, do you remember awareness ribbons? Were you aware of?
I was not aware of
awareness
these ribbons. They didn't do their job, clearly.
A red ribbon was for AIDS. Pink ribbons for breast cancer.
Oh, okay, sure. I didn't know they were called awareness ribbons, I guess.
Oh, were you so you actually didn't remember them when I first brought it up?
Well, I guess I could have assumed that that's what they were. Mm-hmm. I just had not heard the term awareness ribbon before. But I suppose it's just to say like breast cancer awareness, whatever else awareness. Yeah. So
they were famous called awareness ribbons.
I never heard of them being called that before.
Famously.
I just only heard of the specific ribbon names.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just the general term for all of those types of ribbons would just be awareness ribbons of, and then every color means different things.
I hadn't thought of them collectively before. Okay. I just thought of each individual ribbon that was issued.
Like Alzheimer's and pancreatic cancers were purple, HIV and AIDS was red, mental health and mental illness was green. You never saw those because nobody ever talked about mental health back in the 90s. Suicide prevention.
They should be everywhere now.
Yeah. Brain disorders were silver. And then
the least stimulating.
Silver's the least stimulating color.
Probably one of the least stimulating out of the ribbon colors for mental disorders. I could see that. I stand by it. I believe it. It's probably true.
If it's a nice shiny silver, then you can see yourself in it, and you're like, you might have brain disease. Makes you take a look. If you can
see yourself in a reflective material, you might have a brain disease.
In that specific one, I mean, it's like, hey, take a look at yourself. Make sure you get your brain checked.
Oh, I see. It's not like if you see your reflection, there's a good chance you have a brain disorder.
I mean, maybe.
Come on, most of us. But yeah, nowadays you can't go, a day without hearing some sort of advertisement for some sort of therapy or therapeutic service.
Right. We should all be wearing green ribbons.
Yeah, for that reason.
Yeah.
Not just in your general overall fashion.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting though to think about that of the ribbons too, of just the fact that those are just kind of gone now. Nobody except for a long time. Do you remember seeing like the car magnet sticker ones of them? Like everybody was posting them all over their cars.
I still see those from time to time.
They're a little bit more faded now though.
Well, and those are things that it's not like people would slap one on and then when that particular month was up, they remove it. It just stays on the car forever. Well, yeah,
you should be aware all year round, not just.
No, I know, but there's the months that are assigned to those things.
Yeah, I'm sure we've mentioned them.
Yeah.
Nah. When we did all the monthly holidays and things.
I don't think we did. I don't think we talked about. So I don't know if I told you this or not, but you know how we did that whole holiday bit where we're looking up obscure holidays in a month for about a year,
For exactly a year, yeah.
Yeah, precisely 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy at my work that for the last few months has decided to take it upon himself to just sort of walk around and unsolicited just start talking to people, and he makes sure to mention, oh, did you know today is such and such day? It's also such and such day. It's also blah, 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 blah day. And it's a bit funny because it irritates me.
Right.
Because it's completely unsolicited, and I think, man, no one wants to hear what these days are. No one cares. But we also went around and did it on the show for a full year. And so I have a weird mixed feelings about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot easier for anybody who doesn't want to hear it from us. They can just shut the episode off.
It's true.
Yeah. It's a lot harder to tell your coworker to go fuck himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure. And I think it's a little bit of, not being self-aware, like, hey, do you think people really want to have you come up to them and talk about these days?
Yeah.
No one's going to go out and celebrate Cheeseburger Day,
Unless he comes up and tells you it's bathtub party day, then you're like, yeah, I know.
I know. But you're not invited. I'm sorry.
No. We're going to celebrate this one solo. That's a solo party for you, buddy.
Yeah. Oh, I thought you meant like
he's not invited.
You're not invited because I plan. I thought you were saying like he's not invited because I plan on celebrating this one by myself.
I mean,
even if someone I wanted to be there was like, let's celebrate bathtub party day, I'll say no thanks.
No,
attractive
we'll
woman.
It separately.
Yeah, we'll talk about it tomorrow. Like, hey, how was your bathtub party day? Mine was alone, just how I like it. Mine was lonely and by myself, the way I prefer it.
Got off without a hitch. So Beanie Babies, those were quite the trend.
They were.
How many Beanie Babies did you have, Sean?
I think I ended up having a Beanie Baby.
Guaranteed you had a Beanie Baby.
I know for a fact that, and this may come up later on the list, but I know for a fact that I had a Furby.
That is, we're not in F's yet, Sean. We're in
I'm just
B's.
saying because I know for a fact I had a Furby. I cannot for certain say whether or not I had a Beanie Baby at some point.
I'm pretty sure you did.
Because I'm trying to think of which one it might have been. And I just can't picture like a specific Beanie Baby I had. I know my sister had collected a bunch of Beanie Babies, but she cut all the tags off, which I thought was dumb. Like, if you're going to collect Beanie Babies and have a collection, you're supposed to keep the tags off or keep the tags on. She would keep the tags, but after they've been removed from the Beanie Baby, which defeated the whole point, I thought.
Did you ever hear about there was this married couple that had collected a bunch of Beanie Babies and then they were getting a divorce? And there's this very like sad photo of all the Beanie Babies on the courtroom floor as they're separating them between the two people.
What?
In the divorce.
Is this like a Judge Judy episode or something?
No, it was like a real court case in a real court.
Why would you?
And they brought all the Beanie Babies to court so they could separate them equally between the couple when they were divorcing.
Why would that be happening in a courtroom?
Because apparently that was a big part of the divorce, was who gets the Beanie Baby collection.
Well, don't you think they would have just had just come up with the list of the Beanie Babies you guys own and then go down the list and say, this one belongs to you, this one belongs to you, but to bring them in and separate them in front of everyone?
Maybe they couldn't come to an agreement over them like amicably, so they had to bring them to court, and then the judge had to proceed over them separating the Beanie Babies amongst themselves. It's pretty funny.
I imagine that if you're someone who wants to get into law and eventually work your way up to being a judge, that you are thinking, I'm going to make real important decisions.
Yep.
I'm going to handle very crucial matters that are very influential and make a difference. And, I guess the judge just sentences after someone's found guilty, but, the judge doesn't decide if someone's guilty or not. That's the jury. But, they want to feel like they're doing something important and making a difference, and there's something meaningful in their job.
Right.
But to then be the judge, I mean, if you're someone who deals with divorce court, you're dealing with just bickering people all day long. Oh yeah,
you're dealing with just the worst shit. I just sent you an image if you want to look at it.
I'm going to check it out here,
and then you can definitely put it up in the episode so people who haven't seen it.
Okay,
it's sad.
This is sad. I will say it's not as bad as I thought.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking like no one could walk through this courtroom without stepping through Beanie Babies. Like this is covering the whole floor.
It's a pretty good pile of Beanie Babies, but also you think if they're that worried about it being like a valuable collection, they're not just going to dump them all over the floor.
Well, I'm sure they had requested that the floor be thoroughly cleaned before they did this, so that there could be no damage caused to the Beanie Babies as a result of them being placed on the floor. Right. But I can see by the amount of them, they needed a surface area that could not, these tables and benches couldn't live up to. So the floor was the only option.
Yeah, it's just such a funny situation.
I've never seen this before. This is I get it. These were thought to, well, I shouldn't say thought to. These at some point were highly valuable items for some reason.
I think there's still some that are pretty valuable, but for the most part, they're
the whole thing tanked.
Worthless. Yeah. At the time, you could sell them for crazy amounts. If people were smart with them, they bought into the craze, sold them when they were all high, and got the fuck out of it and made a bunch of money. And now that stuff is all completely worthless. So
I recently watched a movie, and I believe it was the movie about Beanie Babies. It wasn't a doc, it was a movie. It was basically the story of the guy who created them or ran or owned the company that made Beanie Babies. Was played by Zach Galifianakis. And, it was mildly entertaining. It wasn't like a crazy Zach Galifianakis comedy, because that's not what the movie was supposed to be. But I'm not sure how accurate it was as far as how things went down or if they got the timeline right or whatever. But, it was an interesting watch. But these type of things, you always know how they end.
It's just really weird to think about, like, why was that such a big... They were just little stuffed animals.
I don't know.
Names. But it's like, why did it... some of this stuff on this list, it's like, why was it such a big deal? When you kind of look back at it, like, why did it matter to people?
Well, that's one of those... It's one of those things where you just don't know what's going to hit and what isn't. It's just like Tickle Me Elmo. For some reason, people were basically killing each other over those things.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows?
It's just funny. You're naming additional things that are on that we will eventually put on this list. But yeah,
I can't think of. Fine. Well, I'm just trying to think of post 90s. I'm trying to think of another type of toy or some holiday type of a thing that really had that much of a craze over it.
Hoverboards.
Did they?
Yeah, hoverboards.
There was a craze about them?
Crazy. Yeah.
I'm surprised by that, considering how they're not cheap.
No, but everybody like wanted them. They were like they were the thing. All of a sudden, everybody had to have a fucking hoverboard. I've
never set foot on a hoverboard before.
I've never set foot on one. I honestly can't tell you if I've ever been in the presence of one.
I don't believe I have been in the presence of one either. I know someone that I work with who, like, they got one of their kids one for Christmas one year or the birthday or something. Right. And so I know she's ridden on it, or at least attempted to ride on one. Right. But I suppose that's the closest I am to having any kind of interaction with a hoverboard, is that I know someone who bought one for their kid.
Yeah. I'm sure I've the presence of one. I've just never had the desire to step on one or really cared.
I think that the gall to call it a hoverboard, knowing of the hoverboard, the fictional hoverboard product that was featured in Back to the Future 2, that takes a lot.
Well, we
to
all know how
come out and call that thing a hoverboard.
Yeah, it doesn't actually hover.
Yeah, you could make it. You can maybe say it feels like you're hovering, but you should feel like you're rolling because that's what you're doing.
Yeah,
they could call it the rollerboard, but the board itself doesn't touch the floor, but neither does that for like a skateboard.
Yeah, you might as well just call a skateboard a hoverboard then,
or a hoverboard a skateboard.
Yeah.
Why rename something that came before it?
Sean, do you remember the Big Mouth Billy Bass?
Is that the singing thing?
Yeah, the stupid wall-mounted singing bass.
I do remember this. There are slight variations of that. Didn't they make like a singing like deer head?
They made all sorts of stupid singing things.
Yeah, and that was one of those. I think for a little while, on my mom's side, I think between my aunts and uncles and stuff, I think that became sort of like a joke gift that got re-gifted around.
That's one of those things that it's like, that is entertaining for literally about a day, and then it's just hanging on your wall and nobody ever touches it ever again.
So I think for some people, it continues to be entertaining. And I will say that those are the types of people that typically get abducted by aliens.
Yeah. They live in homes that you can freely move around.
RVs?
Sure. All right, let's start trying to burn through this list here, Sean. Boppets.
We got a lot left?
We are in B.
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know how many there are per letter. Maximum 26 items, or minimum of 26 items on the list.
Yeah, it's much more than that. Boppets. Okay. Boppets were a pretty big thing in the 90s, apparently.
Is that those like inflatable, like
no, it's like
gloves?
a plastic. No, it's like a plastic toy that you like bop it, flick it, pull it. It's like different things, and you have to try. It's like a Simon, like that red.
Oh, green. Yeah.
It's like Simon, but you're doing different things and like hitting it and different shit like that.
I can't picture the Bop It right now, but I think I remember the ad.
The original Bop It just had like it was like a stick. It had a spinning. You turn it on one end, you pull on one end, and then you bop it in the middle. So it's pull it, twist it, bop it.
Oh, I remember seeing these.
Yeah, there's been different versions since.
I don't think I've ever used one.
I don't think I did either. Britpop was big in the 90s.
So like Britpop.
Oasis.
Oh, British pop music.
Yeah.
The Beatles were big in the 90s. The Who, Led Zeppelin.
Well, that was Brit rock. That was more
the
British
Rolling
rock,
Stones.
Anyways, I'm thinking more of
the Ramones
and Blur and
Sex
Radiohead
Pistols
and
Blur is British?
Yeah. Very much so.
I've never heard them speak. I've only heard a couple songs where they're singing, and usually accents disappear when you're singing.
Sometimes.
Queen.
You're only naming 70s bands.
Beatles were 60s. So was The Who.
Well, Beatles were also 70s, and so was The Who.
No, they weren't. The last album came out in 1969. They were not 70s.
Chat rooms. We spent many a night in a chat room.
Yeah.
In the 90s.
Those were the days.
Excite chat. Excite.com chat rooms.
Hey, back in the day, if anybody had their avatar designed by a stranger in an Excite chat, it could have been Matt or myself.
One of us.
We became quite the avatar designers. And people were clamoring to have us design their avatars.
Clamoring is interesting. Word. Christmas jumpers or Christmas sweaters. Clearly, this was entered by some of these are very UK centric.
Oh, it's all about Britpop.
Sweaters.
Yeah, I never.
Christmas sweaters are still a stupid thing. The clear craze, Sean. Do you remember the clear craze of the 90s?
Are we talking like crystal clear Pepsi?
We're talking crystal clear Pepsi. We're talking clear Game Boy. The clear phones.
Oh yes, yes.
The old Mac computers that you could see into.
Yep.
I had a clear phone for a while. It was green and see-through.
I remember this phone.
Yeah, cordless. It's pretty fancy.
Yeah, for the 90s.
Woo, yeah, boy. For anybody who has no idea what we're talking about, people used to have phones that were just for their house only.
It was called the house phone?
Yeah, you literally plugged it into a wall.
Back then, you didn't even have to call it the house phone because cell phones were not common to call. Yeah. You didn't have to differentiate. You didn't have to go, well, which phone is it? The house phone or the non-existent other phone?
You had to be specific back in the day of, this is my mobile phone. Now you just say, this is my phone.
Did you ever have a rotary dial phone?
Yep.
I believe I did, but remember when they came out with where it looked like a rotary phone, but each number was a button?
Yeah.
Still arranged in that circular. I don't know why that was the way they decided to arrange the numbers.
I think it was the way they just eased people into it that way.
Sure.
But people were just dialing really weird because they'd hit the 9 and then also hit the 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 1.
Yeah, it'd be like running your finger down the piano keys.
And that one person got so many weird phone calls.
Yeah. Well, a lot of hang-ups.
Do you remember club drugs? Were you into
this is the only thing on the list I remember.
Rave drugs, party drugs, big thing in the 90s. I'm going to skip
that's a term people use all the time still. Do you have any party drugs? Hey.
Yeah.
I'm looking for some party drugs.
Looking for rave drugs?
Yeah.
Raves are also on this list, so we can skip over that. Raves were pretty big in the 90s.
Never been to a rave. I've never been to one.
Never been to a rave. Knew a lot of people that went to raves.
Me too.
And then, and a big thing was having a pacifier when you'd go to raves. You'd put a pacifier in your mouth for some reason.
You come up with these dumb things, and for some reason they catch on, and people think it's cool, even though they know it's. I think that the idea of being ironically cool or whatever, or like being ironic, came about when we were coming of age.
Probably,
wouldn't you say? Because I remember so many people saying that stuff that wasn't cool was cool, just because it wasn't actually cool. And I remember that became like what was cool. And I remember thinking why do you say this is cool? Because it really isn't. I felt like people, I didn't like it. That's all. I don't know how else to say it. I didn't like it. I'm like, why do you insist on saying this is cool when you know it isn't?
Because
it was actually cool anymore.
It was cool to like not cool things.
But then no one really was. It was all about not letting people know what you really actually liked. It was all about letting everyone know about what you pretended to like. And so I was like, well, what do you like really? Like, I couldn't figure out what people actually liked anymore.
No, people liked to be mysterious.
Like listening to that Hulk Hogan tape with music on it. Hulk Hogan released music.
Yeah.
And
there was a period of time where people were like ironically listening to that word.
Right. And so we're sitting there listening to it. We know it's awful.
Yeah.
But we're listening to it and we're talking about how awesome it is because it's awesomely bad.
Right.
But then you're like, well, does anybody actually like anything anymore? Or are they always just specifically ironically liking things that are terrible? I couldn't figure it out. It was a sad time. I didn't agree with it. It felt
the whole
so
90s just go away.
It felt so disingenuous. It felt so like, yeah.
90s were such a weird time.
Such a fog, such a haze.
Such
a mist.
Let's see if you remember this 90s fad or trend. Crop circles.
Oh yeah. Well, you can't blame the aliens. You can't, that's just coincidence that the aliens did that in the 90s.
Right.
They have no frame of reference for what year we say it is based on some guy that died that people put a lot of their emotional faith in.
Right. You remember the dancing baby?
Oh yes, I remember the dancing baby. Yes,
made famous on the 90s TV show Ally McBeal.
That I did not know, or maybe I'd forgotten
on that show.
I'm just so you. I hope you don't expect me to put up visuals for all these.
That I'll use your discretion. I'll let you. I mean, at least do the Beanie Baby courtroom picture.
All right.
Digital Monster. So basically, this one and a few
other. Is that
other
Digimon?
So I believe that's what Digimon. It became Digimon eventually. Yeah, it spawned the Digimon franchise. So Digital Monster was basically the same as a couple other things on this list. Same as like a Tamagotchi. It was just a little handheld monster that you would keep alive, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I don't know if these like fought or something like that. I don't know if Digital Monster was different than a Tamagotchi, which was just an animal that a digital animal you tried to keep alive. But there's a few different ones like that on this list of just those things that were such a big craze in the 90s for some reason.
Such a weird little trend. I mean, no one liked when you had to take care of that, like an egg baby or a bag of flour baby or whatever. No one liked having to do that. But the fact that these little sort of handheld, it was just a little handheld thing with a screen, and your little guy was on the screen.
Yeah,
like
the
fact
had to make
that
sure you fed it and cleaned up its poop.
Yeah,
and played with it so that it would be happy.
Yeah, the fact that this kind of stuff caught on is kind of baffling.
It's because like it was supposedly cool, and then a couple people had it, and then like, oh, you've got one, well, and then they begged their parents to get them one, and then millions get sold, and now
Did
there's
you do
dead digital pets everywhere.
Did you do a flower baby?
Yes.
Did you have a choice?
I think when I did it, I can't remember if I had the choice or if it was just before all of those little fucking robotic babies came out.
Yeah.
That you had to put a key in its back to stop it from crying and all this different shit. I think because I think those ones, if you had those, you had to keep them for 24 or 48 hours or something like that. If you did the robot babies, as I'm going to call them for whatever reason. But with flower babies, you had to keep for like a whole week, but you could just, toss that fucker in your locker if you wanted to.
Yeah. I chose the robot baby.
Okay.
Because it was supposed to be only for a day, but I'm pretty sure I just happened to get mine where I had to have it over the weekend.
Nice.
Because it was like a Friday, and so I had to bring it back on Monday. And yes, you had to, it would start crying. And in order to get it to stop crying, this is not how you take care of a baby, first of all.
Right.
You shove a key in its back and turn it. And the whole thing is you had to hold it there with the key for a little while for it to stop.
Crying, yeah.
And all I remember is one time, I don't know how this happened, but this always shows you, this shows how strong of a sleeper I am. It was crying in the middle of the night. I did not wake up. My room was in the basement.
Yep.
And my mom had woken up from it crying on the upstairs of the house.
Yep.
She came down and woke me up in my room to shove the key in this thing one time. But that's how loud these things would get too.
Yeah.
And it would happen during class. Like you'd have to have it in class with you And it would just start crying in the middle of the class. Huh?
Teachers had to get annoyed with that.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. They're like, oh, God, why can't we stick with the flower babies? Whose idea was it to bring in these?
I remember, I don't know why, but I remember I named my flower baby Geraldo. Don't know why.
I mean, just because
I guess I thought it was funny.
Because you're you. I don't remember naming the baby. I'm sure I had to give the baby a name.
Maybe. But I think, it is a bad example to set of, hey, if you want your baby to stop crying, stab it in the back.
Yeah.
And
until it stops crying.
Yeah. Stab and twist.
Then remove. Yeah, I know. Then you remove the.
Once it stops crying, remove it. Remove the whatever you used to stab it with, and put it back to bed.
Yeah, for the next time you have to stab it.
Yeah. If it starts crying again, stab it again. All right. Do you remember 8-ball jackets?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you a jacket with an 8-ball in the back.
Do you remember it for any specific reason?
No.
You don't remember it specifically for the fact that maybe a character in Seinfeld had one?
Putty, played by Patrick Warburton? No.
Yeah.
Dated Elaine Bennis, played by Julia Louis-Dreyfus? No.
Do you remember the episode it was in?
Actually, I don't know that.
It was in the episode called The Reverse People.
Okay.
Do you know recall?
That's where Kramer...
Okay, there.
Yeah, Kramer turned the people around on his door so they could... It allowed people to see what he was doing, and he liked that. He must have had a bit of a like voyeur type of energy that he was unaware of or something. But yeah, he's like, that way people can see what I'm up to if they're curious. So if he's walking around vacuuming or something, they can just look at the people and see that he's doing that.
As soon as I said 8-ball jacket originally, did your mind immediately go to Seinfeld?
It actually didn't.
Okay.
But I was picturing an 8-ball jacket, and then I heard Patrick Warburton's voice go like, 8-ball, check it out, 8-ball. And he'd turn around and point 2 thumbs toward the back of his jacket. When
you click on the Wikipedia link, that is the exact image of him pointing at the back of the jacket. Yep.
Yeah. And Elaine was like, you're going to wear that out? She was embarrassed by it.
Apparently it was a pretty big thing. All right.
Yep.
Fanny packs, also known as waist bags, fanny packs, belt bags, moon bags, belly bags, or bum bags. They unfortunately aren't fully gone.
No, they've kind of made a comeback in the last 5 years or so, at least, I'd say. And it's not to be in an ironic way, like, oh, let's bring back fanny packs. It's like we are legit using these as a place to store stuff while we walk around.
Yep.
It's not meant to be cute.
Yeah, they weren't the worst idea ever. It just became this big thing, and then it became like a joke to have one.
Yeah, I think that
reason. I don't know why.
It's very practical, but you're right. It got this sort of reputation about it.
Yeah.
And, it's just whatever kids of that era decided to make fun of it, and so it just unfortunately kind of died from that.
Yeah.
But they're definitely around.
Mm-hmm.
I do not have one. You have sort of a crossbody bag that could be like a fanny pack, right?
Bag, yeah, I could wear it as a fanny pack if I wanted to.
But it's a similar size. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are varying sizes of crossbody bags, but yours is a on the smaller side, so it's in the. Neighborhood of.
I have a bigger bag. I have a messenger bag too. That's like a crossbody bag.
Sure, yeah. There's that too, but I'm just talking about that smaller one that.
Yeah.
Could also sort of double as a fanny pack if you wore it around your waist.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember the drink Fruitopia?
Oh, I do remember Fruitopia.
Introduced by the Coca-Cola Company.
I liked Fruitopia. But again, probably because it was very
successful Minute Maid brand.
I'm sure I liked it because it was just a very sugary, fruity flavored drink.
Yeah, probably.
But I liked Fruitopia.
Furbies are on the list.
Right.
For some reason, gangster rap is on this list. I think that still kind of exists, but I guess it kind of made its big time
Debut.
It got real big in the 90s. I mean, it debuted in like the 80s, but was big time in the 90s.
Yeah, it did kind of go mainstream, we'll say, in the 90s.
Gel bracelets.
Gel bracelets.
Yeah, those would be like, like
I remember
the bracelets.
I remember the friendship bracelets that you made out of that stuff that people called GIMP.
I had no idea.
It was sort of that rubbery, plasticky stuff. You'd sort of weave together a friendship bracelet.
Yeah,
do you remember
like
this?
rubber bands. But the gel bracelets were just a solid piece all the way around. They were like the Lance Armstrong Live Strong bracelets.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And you know what bracelet? I'm going to say that there's a bracelet I preferred over that, and that's probably later on the list.
Is that maybe in the W's?
No.
Oh, okay. Never mind.
It's in the S's.
The slap bracelet.
Yeah.
List. I was thinking you might have been referring, jokingly referring to the "What Would Jesus Do" bracelets, which are also on the list.
Nope. No, remember, I did not like when people said they liked something that they didn't like. So I'm not going to go around and say that
George Foreman grills.
I had one not in the 90s. I didn't have one in the 90s, but I did have one years later.
Gigapets, another digital pet thing.
Okay.
Girl power was a very big trend in the 90s.
Sure. The Spice Girls.
Yeah.
They shouted that from the rooftops. I
don't know what Go-Go's Crazy Bones were, but they were like little plastic figurines that you could play different games with. Grunge music.
I don't know. Okay. Gotta love it.
Heroin chic.
Oh, yep.
When
all the supermodels were like dangerously thin.
Yeah, very wafer thin, pale skin, dark circles under the eyes, emaciated figures, androgyny, and stringy hair. Hip hop music.
All things I look for in a woman. Hip hop music?
Yeah. Apparently hip hop music was specifically 90s.
Well, maybe another example of something going mainstream at that time.
House music as well. Inline skates.
Some call them rollerblades.
Yeah, I don't know why it's specifically in the I section and not under the R section. Maybe because rollerblades was a brand.
They just couldn't wait to get to it.
I think rollerblades was too much of a brand name. Inline skates
think it was
more encompassing.
Maybe. I don't know if that's true, but maybe.
Jazz design, not the music. So the jazz design it's that trademark design that's featured on disposable cups. It's kind of that like scribbly blue with a darker scribbly blue over the top of it. You'd know it if you saw it.
Probably. But I don't see it. Jazz.
Well, you're gonna
design.
You're gonna look it up.
Oh, that. Yeah. Okay. I see. Yep. Someone's got it on a paper cup and a paper plate and a paper bowl.
Yeah. Lad Mag, which I guess is a magazine in the UK for lads. The loser hand gesture.
Oh yeah, of course.
Putting the L on your forehead.
I've never seen that.
You've never seen anybody hold an L on their forehead?
Not to me.
The Macarena.
Great. Still do it.
Yeah. Magic eye pictures.
Could never do it.
You could never get those to work?
I've never gotten it to work. Nope.
I can almost not get them to not work.
You can almost get them to work?
No, I can almost not get them to not work.
Right. So you remove the double negative and you're saying you could almost get them to work.
Okay. I have a hard time not getting them to work.
You see them without trying, basically.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I have never successfully seen whatever image is in a magic eye poster or picture.
It's weird. I'll teach you how to do it.
Don't even try. I've heard it all. And I tried it all way back when.
And you got to look. Yeah, you got to try to look past.
You got to look through it. You look past the picture. You focus your eyes. You blur your eyes. You hold it close to your face, and you slowly move it away. I've heard all these things. I've tried all these things.
You're the Ethan Suplee character in Mallrats.
Yes, I am.
The sailboat.
Yeah, and I'm staring at it the whole movie. I am that character.
It's a sailboat, you idiot.
Yeah.
All right.
A schooner is a sailboat.
The Mambo number 5.
I mean, why are we listing songs that
I don't know? I don't know what some of this stuff are. The Power Rangers, big time.
You could say Pokemon.
Milk Caps game, which I think we would call Pogs.
Yeah, probably. Where did that die fast? Once the schools banned them.
Oh yeah,
then those died out real quick.
School anymore? Everybody was just like, "Well, what's the point?"
This is the only time I see these kids.
Nu metal,
late 90s, right?
Stupid that it's NU.
I know, but it's that cool.
Yeah. Pokemon trading cards game. Pop punk, post grunge. These are just all going to be a bunch of different stuff. Skipping Q because it's some specific Mexican dance style. Raves, rhythmic oldies.
Okay. Rhythmic oldies.
Yeah.
How can something debut as old?
I don't know.
Are they saying like you remix an old song and make it more rhythmic?
Rhythmic oldies is a radio format that concentrates on the rhythmic R&B, disco, or dance genres of music. Playlists can span from the 60s through the 2000s, and depending on market conditions, may be designed for African American or Hispanic audiences. I think it just became a thing in the 90s.
Gotcha. It finally caught on.
Yeah. Riot Girl, spelt GRRRL. It was
what is this, like a clothing line or something?
Movement that began during the early 90s. So,
okay.
Salvation Bracelet, also known as the Gospel Bracelet, Witness Bracelet, or Wordless Bracelet. Okay.
So any bracelet that doesn't have words on it could be.
They're specifically, it's bracelets specifically used as a tool for Christian evangelism. So it's a farce. Scrunchies, big time.
I still scrunchy
thing.
I still own scrunchies.
Yeah. Shopping malls. Shopping malls were before the 90s, but apparently the big thing in the 90s was shopping malls.
Well, I remember them being big, and they were big in the 80s as well.
They were big in the 80s as well, yeah.
I would say
we've all watched Stranger Things except for Sean.
Hey, I've almost seen the whole first season. Why, does all that involve a mall?
Season 3, I think, almost exclusively takes place inside of a mall.
Okay. I mean, you could argue, speaking of Ethan Suplee, Mallrats, the movie, is a movie that takes place in a mall.
The Eden Prairie Mall of Minnesota, to be exact.
That's correct.
Because it was Indent Mall at the time.
And Walt Flanagan, who is fanboy in that movie, fanboy opposite Steve Dave. Tell him, Steve Dave. I know that they had took a day during that shoot, and they all went to the Mall of America to check it out. But for the first time since then, he did say that sometime, I'm not sure when. I'm sure he purposefully did not give the exact time frame of his little vacation, but he's coming back here for several days, and the only goal for the trip is to visit the Mall of America for several days.
I mean, to be honest, and I guess a little fair for the fact that of people who lived in Minnesota, The Mall of America is really not that great. I suppose though, for anybody not from Minnesota, it's probably kind of cool to go see it.
No, I don't argue that.
Yeah.
But like 6 days
weird
checking out a mall.
There's people that travel from other countries specifically to go to the Mall of America.
I understand that.
There's hotels that are directly connected to it, so you literally can go from the airport to your hotel, and then you don't have to leave. You don't have to go outdoors again until you go back to the airport.
Right. He did mention that he wanted that, but didn't like think of that before booking a hotel somewhere else. But he wanted to not have to leave the mall, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, you can literally do that. It's fucking ridiculous.
The only other thing he intends to do is visit the Mary Tyler Moore statue off Nicollet in downtown Minneapolis.
Okay.
So I guess that's the okay, let's break away from the mall and go check out this statue for 3 minutes and then go back to the mall. Like, how much time can you spend
walk around? You can walk around
the statue.
Mall areas. Nicollet Mall area is an okay walking area.
Right. A lot of stuff isn't open anymore. So there's a lot of just like empty space over there. But it's true. I mean, I haven't been there in a couple of years now, or a year now about, but where there's a lot of stuff that was not open anymore when I left. So I can only imagine there's even more stuff that has shut down since then.
All right, that's shopping malls.
Yeah.
Ska punk, skate punk, these different musical genres, I guess. Slap bracelets, obviously. Sobe.
Yeah. Sobe Life Water?
Brand of teas, fruit juice blends, and enhanced water beverages owned by PepsiCo.
So who owned Fruitopia?
It was Minute Maid, which is a Coca-Cola brand.
Okay, so why am I not surprised that all these things?
Fruitopia.
Why am I not surprised that all these things stem down from one of these giant cola companies?
Oh yeah, always. Like
I was not into what
Coca-Cola brand.
I was not into Sobe. I never drank it.
Sobe. I don't think I ever drank a Fruitopia either.
I know I drank Fruitopia, but to me, Sobe always was like people that like to wear like hemp necklaces like to drink Sobe.
It was too hippie for you.
A little too hippie for me.
Tybo.
Oh, I remember Tybo.
Yeah, by fucking Billy Blanks.
I believe my sister had a couple Tybo tapes for a while. Oh wait, that must have been way later. There's no way at that age she was like doing Tybo.
Who knows?
I don't remember. I think she had Tybo though.
Who knows what she was doing in her room by herself? Teen pop, which was a subgenre of pop music. It was just much more, teen. Thigh Masters.
Yep.
Big time 90s. Getting them
Big
thighs
time.
tight. Got to get them thighs
you want
ready for crushing.
Yeah, forget the rest of your body.
Yeah. Actually, you got them tight thighs so that you can wear your next trend, which was a thong.
Did that?
Thighs
was that big in the 90s?
Important thing. I guess that's when thongs kind of made their big time debut in the 90s.
Okay.
I don't know.
What year did the thong song come out?
It was in the 90s.
I said what year? You just gave a decade.
I don't know. I don't know specifically what year it came out, but it was definitely in the 90s. So that kind of tracks.
It's okay. Good.
Thong song by Cisco, who lives in Maple Grove, Minnesota.
Lives?
Yeah. Cisco owns a home in Maple Grove, Minnesota.
I should spend more time in Maple Grove. Could bump into Cisco. He was recently on The Masked Singer.
About? What would you and Cisco talk about if you bumped into him?
Thongs.
I'm pretty sure he's probably all tuckered out talking about thongs.
I could talk to him about how I recently saw him on The Masked Singer.
Okay.
And that's it. I could ask him why Maple Grove, of all places.
There you go. Yeah, maybe you can get him on the show.
I could say, boy, you want to go to Best Buy and check out.
It's still going.
Check out the latest CDs that have been released.
And one of the few Best Buys still in existence.
If it's not a Taylor Swift CD, don't bother looking for it, because that seems to be all that people care about selling these days.
Tickle Me Elmos. Obviously, we brought them up already. Train surfing was apparently big in the 90s, where you ride on the outside of a train.
What do you mean the outside? Like, you're not on the roof of the train. You're on the top?
Yeah.
That was something people did?
Yeah.
I thought that was just something you did to get away from a bad guy in a movie.
I mean,
when you're on the train.
How it started.
And the bad guy's on the train. And you don't want any civilians, like innocent bystanders, to get hurt. So you go up to the top of the train, where you could also potentially get them to hit their head at the top of a tunnel that they're not expecting.
Right. All those tunnels that just come out of nowhere. Turbo chewing gum. I don't remember Turbo chewing. Oh, it's a Turkish company. Never mind. All right.
The flavor goes away real fast.
Virtual Pet, which is just, again, it's showing a picture of a Tamagotchi specifically. So, all right, cool.
Okay.
Walkmans.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm surprised Discmans is not on this list.
Yeah, we passed D already.
Yeah. I never passed the D. What would Jesus do? Bracelets, obviously. Where's Wally? Also, where's Waldo if you're from the States, as it would be called.
Oh, in other parts of the world, it was Wally, huh?
It's in the UK, it's called Where's
Waldo's such a cooler name, though.
I mean, Wally's just short for Waldo.
Yeah, but
William.
And Walfred.
Yeah. Walbert.
Wangerman.
Wallop.
Walter. For real, though. Walter.
Yeah. Wall Bastion. You like Waldo better?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. For anybody who doesn't know what Where's Wally or Where's Waldo books are, it's a picture book where you have to try to find Waldo
or Wally
in the scene,
or a wizard, or a plethora of other objects and characters.
Yeah, I suppose they do have like a key of like, also find this thing.
Yeah, I had several of those books as a lad. Did you have any of those books?
I don't remember
as a lad or lass.
I don't remember owning one.
Yeah, I did. I also had some puzzles, at least one puzzle that was of a page of one of the books I had.
I'm glad you.
I believe it was
originally just like, I also had a puzzle, just randomly.
Well, I believe it was sort of the Halloween-y type of one where it had vampires and werewolves and things, all mummies and stuff all over the place. Not Mexican alien mummies, just earthly mummies. Yeah, that's the puzzle I had. I put it together. Nice. It was an exact copy of the image of the.
Would be a difficult puzzle to put together because it's a lot of tiny drawings.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. What a great idea for a series of books, though. Yeah, it must have been a pain in the ass to draw all those, but that's what the guy was good at. And and you could just with such a huge scene with everybody being so tiny, you can throw in so many mini little scenarios throughout the whole thing. It was fun.
Yeah, definitely. Last thing on the list is Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game.
Oh, never even.
I think those are still popular.
Well, just like Pokemon, that's still around.
Yeah.
I'm surprised it isn't on there. Maybe because it wasn't such a huge thing. But Talk Boy.
Yeah. Those weren't on there. There's like starter jackets. aren't on the list.
You know what we should do? We should come up with our own list of 90s things that we had that we liked and we remember having that weren't on this list.
Yeah, like Micro Machines.
Yeah, like let's not give it all away now, though.
Oh,
you've already listed off two or three other things that aren't on the list.
Yeah.
Anyway, Matt, this was
more. I kept them to myself just now.
Good. I know I've got at least one in my head.
Nice.
Another one.
Oh shit!
Here's another one.
Oh my god, you guys! This is the ultimate cliffhanger.
Okay. Wait. Still just the same ones.
Oh, okay.
Wait a minute. I got sort of. There's another one. Yeah.
Ooh,
I should actually start typing these out, because I really will forget them.
I will as well, and I'm also not going to type them out. I will try to remember them next time.
Great, good plan.
Bam! That's how I work.
And then
anyways,
okay, I got some few things up there, on there. Yeah. Well, Matt, this was a fun trip down memory lane. Even though we didn't remember some of the things.
Yeah, some of them weren't things that we did, but some of them were things we at least remembered.
Why do you think it's lane out of all the type of street things there are? Why can't it be like Memory Road or Memory Boulevard or Memory Street?
Memory Junction.
Or Memory Circle.
Memory
what?
What? Memory intersection?
No, why would we do that?
I don't know. It's where two people's memories
intersect
and come together and cause an accident because there's no stop signs.
Memory path.
Memory roundabout.
Memory on-ramp.
Oh, that kind of works.
It does.
Memory overpass. Well, we'll see you next Tuesday.
I promise.
Bye.
God be with ye.
If you have a question, complaint, or threat for Sean or Matt, you can reach us on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, X, or Instagram at hsfamouspod, or you can email the show at highschoolfamous@gmail.com. No animals were pleasured during the making of this podcast, despite our best efforts. All hail our Lord and Savior.
You know, you come up with these dumb things.